Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today. Rich, thanks for setting this thing up. So just to set the stage a bit here, again, I am Mike Sullivan. I'm President and CEO of Source Interlink Companies, and somewhat of a different type of an organization, more bifurcated than some of my other contemporaries up here on the panel with me. That being that we are a publisher as well as a wholesale distributor, a publisher in the U.S. We have an audience of over 80 million men. We have unique visitors on our digital websites of about 40 million, 160 million page views. Our social media network is growing pretty dramatically on the publishing side, up over 15 million now, and we have a YouTube channel that's topping about 1.6 million in subscriptions. We have over 100 products and 800 different brands that we license on the product side. On the distribution side, one of the largest independent wholesale distributors in the U.S. We have 33,000 outlets. I guess I should be clicking this, shouldn't I? 33,000 outlets with a national presence, about a 33% market share as well. I was actually very happy to hear Sumner's speech today. It makes me feel good to hear him up here talking about our business because, quite frankly, I thought it was going to hell in a handbasket, and the numbers you're going to see on my side kind of show that. So I get a little bit of a pump kind of when I hear him out there speaking and talking about the good things that are going on the digital side. But if you take a look at the last 4 years, the facts kind of grind themselves home here. There's been a 30% decrease in retail sales volume on top of a 33% decline in units. That's been somewhat offset by an increase of 50 cents per copy over the last 4 to 5 years in cover prices. As you can see from the slides, magazines that have closed just over 1,200. And we know that there are fewer outlets out there. Over the last 5 years, about 27,000 outlets on the North American continent that used to handle magazines no longer handle them. So a pretty startling number. So to be a little bit more succinct, when you take a look at the numbers, 4 years ago, at the end of 2008, the numbers were about $4.9 billion in sales, and as we closed out 2012, that number had dropped down to $3.4 billion. By my numbers, I'm guessing that that's probably going to be below $3 billion by the end of 2013. But kind of headed up by the celeb category, which is off 30%. And look at our titles, and I know Sumner's numbers were about 10,000. We're a pretty broad-based magazine wholesaler in the U.S. In that we supply the bookstore channel with a lot of their product. And we carry about 7,000 SKUs in our warehouse. But if you look at number 1,001 down, the fall off is about 76%. So the decline in the business, the greater majority has come from the top 25 titles, mostly celebrity-oriented, and those more enthusiast-oriented titles below 1,000. The SIP category is one of the things that's shown remarkable growth for us. That's those higher cover price specials. But the year-over-year decline in magazines for the first quarter was 11% this year, probably the largest drop-off in a one-quarter period year-over-year ever in the history. So what do we know for sure? We know that there's continuing to be economic concerns across the country, and we know that there's over 22 million unemployed, or what we like to say is underemployed individuals. We know that also that publishers are investing a considerable number of dollars on the subscription and the digital side of the business. And one thing is for sure, and I see it in our own house, we're not spending as much on the promo side as we used to. I guess it's all about return on investment, but that's something that's really kind of, I think, dragged the category. I can tell you one thing we do know for sure, our retailers are demanding solutions, and they're looking for us on the wholesale distribution side as marketers to try to figure what that is. So when you look at the retail chain, you would think that it's rather simple and very linear. The manufacturer being on the top of the channel, and then you have the sales and marketing and the billing company at the national distributor level, at least in our markets. Then you've got the logistics provider and the wholesale distributor, and then obviously the retailer and the consumer. What you would think would be generally very, very simple, I think, is actually rather complex. When you look at the channel itself, you look at the number of major publishers, and this is just a smattering of a few that are up here on the screen, dealing with our national distributors who in turn deal with the wholesale distributors who are in turn dealing with the retailers. Not quite as simple and as linear as you would think. So I think one of the things we're going to be talking about, hopefully in this panel up here, and I'm sure this is affecting us, this segment of the business, pretty much across the world, is how do you take some of the costs out of the channel itself. So predictions for the U.S. marketplace, I would say my prediction is one thing is constant, and that is change. And change we'll consider, and I think you'll see it ramping up here pretty considerably over the next couple of years. So when we look at the business itself as a whole, obviously 3 economic indicators here, the publisher, the wholesaler, and the retailer. We've seen considerable consolidation over the years. In the 90s, there were probably 200 wholesalers. In the mid-2000s, there were a dozen that represented about 90% of the business, 85 to 90% of the business. Today, 3 players represent about 80+% of the business. So a huge amount of consolidation on the wholesale distribution side. Publishers continue to get larger, and a lot of the guys get smaller and go away. Hearst just obviously purchased the Hachette product line in the U.S. This year for, well, I guess it was last year actually, for close to $1 billion. And on the retail side, we see continued consolidation, and the major players continue to eat up the smaller banner stores, as exampled by Kroger Supermarkets, the largest grocery chain in the country, taking out Harris Teeter in the Carolinas, which was a major regional player in that marketplace. So change is going to continue. What comes with change? For us on our side of the business, scan-based trading is something that's grown very dramatically over the years. It's all about information and the flow of information. And as scan-based trading has come into play, and it really started with the bookstore channel, one of the major players there pushed it in the late 90s and kind of ramped it up into a new form of scan-based trading using a control set to take the cost of returns processing out of the channel. And that was back into the mid 2000s, and that was then followed by one of the larger club stores. So we're going to continue to see that grow. In our market, scan-based trading represents about 80% of the business. And what I'm going to talk a little bit about is how do you take cost out on the other side as you continue to ramp up these changes. So when we look at POS, what does that mean? It's obviously access to information. So what we have found and what we deal with here in the U.S. is we have immediate access to the information of our retailers that are selling the product. So we know what's selling and we know what's not selling. And from our perspective, you've got to use that approach to the business to take costs out. What we've done ourselves is you look across our company, it's all about diversification. So a year and a half ago, we brought in the Hitachi Consulting Group to kind of teach our people to take an inward look at themselves to figure out what else it is you can do on the magazine distribution side. We've got a logistics network that's set up on wholesale distribution centers and depots and 300 trucks that are servicing close to 35,000 retailers across the country. What other types of product can we take into the marketplace? So we spent a considerable amount of time with the Hitachi folks looking at another segment of our business. How do we change? How do we continue to change? Because with the decline in sales continuing the way they are, you've got to find a way again to take cost out, kind of a recurring theme here. And then we were asked to talk a little bit about what's going to change on the magazine side. One of the things that we're pushing is brand experience. And you can see that in 3 particular phases that I note up here on the screen. One is cross promotions, another is licensing, and then one is events. And one of the big things I'll talk just briefly about, because I only have a couple more minutes, one of the things that we've engaged here in 2004, we started the Hot Rod Power Tour. It's all about the enthusiast, and it's taking that enthusiast and coupling the brand that they're looking at and tying it into what they're excited about. And in this instance, this is a 1,400-mile journey that started this past year in Arlington, Texas, and ended up in North Carolina. 7 cities in 7 days, 1,400 miles. We had over 19,000 vehicles engaged, and as you can see, 75,000 spectators. And this is something that's grown year over year over year, and this ties directly into our brand. So it's print tying to digital, tying to the experiential marketing side of our product line. And then what's next? And I'll kind of close on this. Two things that we're very, very heavily involved in is our Smart Rack program, which is a development. How do we engage the consumer at the point of sale to tie them into the magazine brand? And so this is a rack that's cloud-based. When the consumer picks the product up, if they pick up a Motor Trend, then a video will come up on the iPad in the center of the screen. It'll take them through a 15-second jaunt, of what's inside the books. Again, it's trying to use the digital component to engage that consumer. And then here's an example of one of the things that we've recently done in our digital studio. So for those of you that are football fans, this is the tail end of an integrated marketing program that we're going to be looking to bring to retail. This is something we did with our team out in our El Segundo offices and took it back to Jaguar and sold it to them. It was a $1.1 million program. It kind of was put together in about a period of about a week. But we're all about how do we bring the digital side of the business back to the print side of the business in an effort to stabilize and hopefully grow certain areas. So thank you very much.